Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Goal and Bodybuilding Mountain. And today I'm going to do some legs here and answer some of your questions and talk about various concepts like I usually do. Hopefully, and I'm guessing some of the stuff I'm going to say is going to be very useful for some of you natural bodybuilders out there. So for those of you who are new here, just be patient. Most likely I'll be covering some subject that might help you or help you see things from a different perspective that'll help you find what is the right path for you in your natural bodybuilding journey. Now, a lot of times I'm forced to come up with one title for these workout vlogs, but a lot of times I'll be covering 4 or 5 different subjects. So it's impossible to put that all in the title. So I appreciate your patience as I get to my point, and at the same time just share some sort of atmosphere of me training in my garage and you know, maybe coming to some conclusions of my own. You never know, right? Because we're always adapting, always evolving. The body is an ever-changing sort of system. And yeah, only by being aware can you know what the right thing is to do for you in any one moment. So most of you guys and myself, we're rebels, right? We're gym rebels. You know, we're trying to find out what the truth is instead of just have people tell us, you know. And through my 35 years of training and competing at national levels and stuff, I was constantly finding out that different things were working for me than what was prescribed or what was commonly taught. So I feel that everybody can benefit from the template of what is generally acceptable in natural bodybuilding, but there are going to be places where you deviate. And case in point, my squat, okay? So the way I squat is totally different than anything you've ever seen, or at least anything you see on Instagram where guys are doing ass to the grass or parallel squats and stuff, because I do bend over a lot. I've explained this a million times, but the fact is that this angle of attack feels the best on my hamstrings and my quads, and I get massive leg development from it. I had some of the best legs on stage when I was competing in my youth, you know, but this is the way I squatted all the way through. So I'm going to say to you, this channel and everything I do is going to challenge your belief systems. And it's not because I'm trying to be adversarial, but it's just because I couldn't fit into the paradigm that was generally accepted. And I had to find my own path. And it turned out that that gave me the results that helped me win a lot of competitions and help other people find what their path was, right? So yeah, so I'm going to do some squats. I don't know what weight I'm going to go to today. I might go to medium weight or heavier weight. I don't know. We'll see how it feels. I warmed up a couple sets already with 1 plate, and now I'm just going to do 2 plates and then go from there, you know? So every workout that I do is always about each set. I feel what's going on, right? Each set, I'm vigilant, right? I'm saying, okay, how do I feel? What's going on in the knees? What's going on in the back? What's going on in the shoulders? What's going on in my head, you know? And the fact is that this vigilance will protect you, because no matter how vigilant you are, sometimes you will snap things. I'm not going to lie to you about that, but you'll definitely lower down the possibility of that if you're just paying attention to what's happening. So yeah, it's good to start with the template. Like, say I intend to go heavy, okay, but if the body starts telling me no, going heavy is probably going to be a danger move, then I don't do it. You know, that's the way it works. So let's just do a light set here. Easy stuff, right? Easy stuff. Just getting that constant tension on the muscles, just getting everything lubricated and moving. And then sometimes I'll stay here for 2 sets, and then I'll go to 3 plates and so forth. But on the squat, for myself, I find you're better off doing extra sets of warm-ups than just rushing through. So on that note, or on the note that I said before I started this set, I just want people to know there's a difference between educating and indoctrinating. And it seems like there's a lot of confusion around that. I think a lot of times people get indoctrinated and they call it education, or vice versa. But in the end, if you want to really be free and really know what is right for you, you have to take whatever education you get and then apply it in the physical world and find out, does it work or not? And you can see the difference, right? Because if somebody is indoctrinated, what they will do is just constantly try to match their indoctrination to the physical world. And if it doesn't match, they say there's something wrong with the physical instead of actually looking at why their indoctrination or education is not matching, right? They don't try to look at the flaws in whatever they're indoctrinated into. So that's the weak link with information. Information is always going to have places where it applies and places where it does not apply. And only through wisdom and through experience can you know where those places are. So I'm always about, hey, I'm going to give you some ideas, then you apply it, see what happens. Pay attention, and then from there, we're going to find out if what I'm saying is working for you perfectly, or if there's something that needs to be adjusted. And that's a beautiful thing, right? So this is a wisdom path, really. Natural bodybuilding, honestly, is a wisdom path. It's not an indoctrination path. Not if you want to be advanced. And a lot of you guys are pretty advanced out there, so I appreciate you guys just weathering my words and just listening to me blabber on. But but that's the point. So a lot of times on YouTube, people will come to me and say, Jason, you don't know what you're talking about. And the reason why they'll say this is they say, I'm not repeating the indoctrination that they are initiated into. And only if I'm saying something that matches what they were indoctrinated into will qualify me as a credible expert or not. But I'm going to say this, you might not understand what I'm saying now, but in time you will. And I've had lots of people come back to the channel and say, holy shit, I didn't like what the hell you were doing before. I thought it was stupid. Now I finally get it, you know? So yeah, just, if you don't like me right away, I understand. I don't have a likable face. Just give me a chance, and then perhaps we'll find a middle ground here where I can help you out. So that's really all this is about, because we obviously know I'm not getting famous or rich doing this stuff, but I am enjoying making some pretty colors on video, and that's what it's all about, you know? So yeah, let's do another set here. Let's go to 3 plates. Let's do that. Now you'll notice I like to dip my ass back quite a bit because that puts more of the weight over my hips, puts the weight on the hamstrings, and yeah, it's just this way I can mechanically advantageously, you know, that's just the way I do it, just because it feels right, and that's where I keep the muscle tension on the muscle belly, not necessarily right on the knees and stuff. So, but yeah, you got to find your own sweet spot. Now the reason why I don't go all the way up is because I like the tension it keeps on the legs. If I go all the way up, I start to notice that the lower back and the hip flexion and stuff, it starts to become more of a factor in my overall exhaustion from the squats. And my goal is to keep it right on the legs and the hamstring and the ass the whole time. So when I come up, it takes some of that tension off and then transfers it to my hips, and it lessens the tension on the back, and I find it almost loosens up the back a bit. So this is what happens when you spit on the mirror. Hey, gotta Windex this. It's all Jason squatting in front of the mirror. That's what happens. I don't have all those fancy assistants that those fancy YouTubers have, right? Yeah, to load their plates on the rack and clean their windows. So a question that was just asked in the comments by this one guy, he basically was asking about at what point does cardio work against you when it comes to getting gains? And he asked like, 4 or 5 different questions, right? So he's going through a little bit of a existential sort of issue. So I told him I'd answer this question in this video. So the first one is, how do you know you're doing too much cardio? Well, the truth is that if you're doing a ton of cardio, especially super intense cardio, what I noticed back in the day when I was getting ready for a competition, or if I was doing karate, because a lot of you guys don't know, but I was a karate instructor till I was about 20 years old. And basically what I would do is go to the gym and lift weights, and then I go to karate. Now, there'd be times where I take a hiatus from going to karate, and my strength gains would go through the roof. I'd start put on muscle, and yes, I'd put on a tiny bit of fat too. There's no doubt that some of it was fat. But I found that when I was really intensely sparring and doing a lot of cardio, what was happening was that my weight training was becoming more difficult to recover from. And I had to basically choose between one sport or another to specialize in, using one sport as a support. So what I'm saying is, weight training can help you get better at certain things, but will you become a better bodybuilder, period, if you're busy sprinting and doing a lot of cardio, a lot of sports? I'm going to say that it's going to work against you to a certain point. There's a reason why bodybuilders don't do a lot of high intensity cardio sports along with their weight training. One of the other reasons is because of injury, right? And as you get older, high velocity type sports are always a higher risk of injury. So, hence like hockey, I dislocated the shoulder, tore this rotator cuff, exasperated a bicep tear, from a collision. Like, a lot of these things happen when you're playing sports. And that doesn't exactly help you put on muscle if you're constantly fighting a tweak or an injury from some sort of weird collision, or just doing, lots of ballistic type jumping movements, right? I mean, there's professional sprinters in the Olympics. These guys are great, great athletes, but they still will tear a hamstring or an Achilles tendon from time to time. And that's something that you have to, come to terms with. So the nice part about bodybuilding and weight training is that you can control the environment a bit more than something that has to do with coordination and velocity, because sometimes something is just not ready to explode and you start to pull something or tear something. So that's why you see a lot of retired athletes from football and sprinting and basketball and whatever. A lot of them will get into bodybuilding because they started using weights as a rehabilitation, and then they start to develop a love affair for the weight training. So the truth is that each person will have a different tolerance level to cardio and their weight training. But the point of the cardio would be to help you recover. And then once you start going too intense, you're going to start noticing that your strength starts to go down. Your pumps in the gym start to go down. Your ability to do as much volume will go down. And you'll start to look smaller. You'll start to lose muscle. You'll start to lose some of that pumpy and lumpy look. Like when I was playing hockey, we'd look around the dressing room and a lot of the guys would look skinny fat. They're doing tons of cardio, but they have a little bit of a paunch. All the upper body muscle was pretty much wasted away. They had a lot of muscle in their legs from doing all the leg stuff, but the body was adapting a certain way to that sport. So the law of sport-specific training applies. Whatever it is that you choose that your body's going to do is what your body will adapt to. And so if you want to do bodybuilding really seriously and the cardio really seriously, your body will find some sort of middle ground, almost like a compromise between the two. And so it will become good at both to a certain point, but you'll be much better if you specialize in one and just use the other to assist in some way. So with cardio, I'd say you're doing low intensity, but you're getting that blood flow. So you're getting that enhanced recovery. You're getting the heart health out of it, but you're not doing it so intensely that you're burning all your energy up. Like you're using your glycogen more for the cardio than you would be for the weight training. And that's what I would do. That's how I would approach that. And the other question this guy asked was, at what point is just getting big for the sake of big, dumb, and whatever? And that's really a debate for yourself. I mean, everybody's going to have their own, reasons for training. But one thing nobody can deny, in the modern age, most men are very sedentary, right? So the best way to combat that sitting around type office job, or that, life where we sit in cars a lot, we're not constantly moving, is to have more muscle mass, because that muscle mass will raise the metabolism and therefore not only help stabilize the blood sugar, but also help the body burn calories when you're not moving. So I say muscle mass is one of the most important things to preserve or to build, especially if you're not going to have a very active lifestyle outside of the gym. You know, say you're busy doing an office job or something. But, you know, you have to really go in alignment with your own constitution as well. Like, you may feel just great when you're doing all different sorts of exercise, and you don't necessarily just want to put on muscle for the sake of muscle. That's fine too. Like, I mean, you know, there's lots of guys that do, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all this stuff, and they tweak the shit out of their joints, and they use the weight training as well to get better at the jiu-jitsu, but at the same time, they're always fighting an injury from some guy putting them in an arm bar or something. It's really up to you what you choose to do. But to me, weight training is one of those ones where you can develop a strategy, and it can be much safer than, say, a high velocity sport. I'm not saying it's absolutely safe, because anytime you move the body, you can tweak something. I mean, one of the most common ways that guys tweak their back is just picking up a golf tee, and a golf tee doesn't weigh that much. So, you know, you have to go with what really truly motivates you to stay active. But for me, I find that the muscle building side of things is one of those great things to, it makes me feel better 24/7, not just when I'm in the gym. Yeah, so that's really my point on that. So let's do another set of 315 here. It just feels good. Yeah, I think I'll go to 365 and maybe stay there. Feels all right. Yeah. All right, let's go 365 here. Everything feels pretty good, except for my shorts and my ass. Feels pretty good otherwise. Hey? Yeah. It's a problem with doing squats. Your ass has a tendency to eat your shorts. You ever notice that? Yeah. You know, sometimes lifting weights is too easy. Yeah. I think my next set, I'm just gonna lift my house. Just do the house up and down, okay? Now, it's important to note that a lot of times people do high bar squats, they'll do low bar squats, front squats. And the reason why people do this is because it changes the center of gravity. Now, when the center of gravity changes, you'll be either more straight up and down or more bent over. But I find myself, like if I do front squats, yes, I stay more straight up and down, but the knees come forward way over the toes. And I find that that's when I notice my quadriceps start to, like the stress starts to leave the belly of the quadriceps and start to really distribute the pressure right in the knee. Now, I will do goblet squats here and there, but I'll also do walking lunges with just body weight, with the knees touching the ground and everything. And I'm also doing, after this I'll show you, but I'm also doing a hybrid type of sissy squat, right? Where I just basically bring the knees over the toes and also bring the heels right off the ground. But I do it in not an extremely aggressive way, but just a way that I can basically get that stress on the quads and help stretch out the tendons around the knees and stuff. But I'm using very lightweight, so it's like more of a rehabilitation type of side of things. So there will be movements that you find that are, again, appropriate for heavy weight. And then, of course, you'll notice that if you use certain techniques with that heavy weight, it's very detrimental to you. It causes nothing but problems and pain. But sometimes you could still do certain movements, but you just have to be very conscious of using lightweight, and therefore you can get the benefit, but at the same time, not the detriment, right? So, you know, you've seen the sissy squat videos where, you know, somebody does a sissy squat and then they snap their patella tendon off, right? Because they're using heavy weight or being too aggressive. But that doesn't mean those movements are bad. It just means that they have a certain tension threshold, and you have to be conscious of that. So if you're feeling a lot of tension in the knees, a lot of pain, then you're either doing too much range of motion or too much weight, and you need to back off on that. So me, I do this, and I just basically bring the knees over the toes with the feet flat on the floor as far as they can go, and then I let the heels just leave just a little bit, and I come back, and this is a great quad finisher for me after I'm done my squat workout. So yeah, let's do another set of 365. I know this is too light for you guys, but feels pretty good, you know? Like I said, I'm gonna do a couple more sets of this, and then I'm gonna do some house lifts where I do 15 sets of 5,000 with the house, and then I'm going to move up to real weight. I'm gonna just lift the mountain. And possibly, I just want to give you guys a warning, possibly I will throw the mountain at the end of my set. You know, kind of like guys, they drop the dumbbells on the floor. I'll just throw the mountain. So anybody southeast of me, I'm in BC, Canada right now, so I'm guessing Idaho, watch out, there might be something flying your way. That's all I'm saying. So just a heads up. Flying mountain, you know what I'm saying? Flying mountain. You know, sometimes exercise just feels so good that you just want to do another set. So yeah, I'm gonna do one more set of this, and then we'll get to the mountain thing. So yeah, this kind of comes back to the question that was asked on YouTube, where I think people try to use a tool for everything. So say you had a hammer, right? And you knew it was great for banging in nails or taking nails out of the wood. You wouldn't use it as a screwdriver. Right? You wouldn't use it as a jackhammer or a airplane, you know what I'm saying? Like a hammer would be used as a hammer. So certain exercises you're gonna notice are gonna be great for certain ranges of motion that are not necessarily super stretchy. Let's put it that way. Like I'm still stretching out my hamstrings a lot because I bend over a lot. So a lot of those guys making fun of my depth and stuff, a lot of them, sometimes they're way more straight up and down, and when they come down, they're still not stretching their hamstrings as much as I am during my squat. So, you know, they're just trying to look at one part of the squat, but not necessarily taking into account everything that's going on. So yeah, most people, they see things through their own filters, right? And that's kind of what's happening with these people. But what I'm gonna say though, is that I understand their main point, and stretching movements are also important. So you're going to notice that there's going to be certain exercises that are great for stretching movements, using lighter weight, but stretching through a deeper range of motion. And you're going to notice a rehabilitation sort of effect or side effect from that. So walking lunges, for instance, I'm noticing doing walking lunges just with the 70-pound dumbbells has been great. And I'm not overly stretching, of course. I'm not touching my back knee to the ground or anything, but I'm noticing it's really synergistic as far as making sure that my hips are running properly. So that way, when I am squatting, my knees are feeling much better. Now, that said, there are a lot of times, like say I'll squat right now, and I might do a little bit of hamstrings, like a couple sets of Romanian deadlifts for you guys. And then I'll go into the garden and do some walking lunges, full range of motion with the back knee touching the ground and everything. And my main focus in this is not necessarily to push the muscles as much as it is to take them through a range of motion where it makes sure everything is working in perfect alignment. So I'm trying to realign everything. That's the purpose of that exercise. Now I'll do it till I get a deep burn and everything, and you know, my quads are screaming from it, don't get me wrong, but it just has a bit of a different purpose in that moment. So you have to decide sometimes which category an exercise fits in, and sometimes it fits in both, depending on the weight you're using. But other times you'll find that certain movements, they're not good once you start to take them to the super stretchy point, but they're great for using, you know, super heavy weight. I mean, one could say this with deadlifts, right? Some guys will do partial rack deads and get awesome results from that. But when they deadlift on the floor, they get injured, right? So they found that that deadlift movement is better for them through a partial range. They didn't discard the movement altogether. They just found a way that it was effective. And I'm seeing some of you guys in the comments talk about this because you get indoctrinated into full range or nothing, and sometimes you end up discarding movements that are very effective because you've used them in the wrong way for you and your body type. So that's a tragedy, really, you know, because I see people discarding deadlifts all the time. And sometimes if they just change the range of motion a bit or adjusted the weight or whatever, all of a sudden that movement becomes extremely effective for them. And I'm not saying that everybody has to deadlift. I'm just saying that there are times that certain movements will serve you better in a rehabilitation, lighter capacity. And then there are certain movements that they're not good to be using in a stretched position with heavy weight. You know, it's better to use a motion that feels more natural to you and then challenge that strength with those movements, right? Kind of like I do with the squat. I notice even if I go super light with the squat and I go all the way down, it just does nothing but irritate my knees and mess my joints up, even with super lightweight, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I'll stretch with my body weight. I'll do body weight squats right to the ground and just sit there on my heels. But again, I'm doing super, super lightweight and I'm not really working up and down in some sort of exercise. I'm just kind of doing it as a stretch, like a passive stretch. But if I start putting some lightweight on the bar even, I can do the movement. I can go straight up and down with 275, all the way down, all the way up. But the problem is it just irritates my knees, even with one plate aside. So I don't do it, right? So your body will talk to you. Your body will tell you what movements are working or not. And sometimes it'll scream to you what movements are not working or what weight or intensity is not working. So yeah, don't beat yourself up if something seems to work in a different capacity. So don't panic if you find that there's certain exercises that work in a different way for you, or you have to adjust and individualize it, right? So here, last set of these. Man, my legs feel good though. I have to say my legs feel really good today. Like just, wow, honestly. They're pumped up and look bloated. They look like a whale now because once I get the blood flow in them, you lose. I don't have a lot of cuts in my legs right now anyway, but you lose all the cuts, right? But I don't care. I'm looking to get some size, man, so I can lift the mountain and throw it down to Idaho. Yeah. Nice. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, if you guys down in Idaho, if a mountain lands in your front yard, you owe me $995,000 and send it to naturalglandbodybuilding.com. It's not my fault if you can't lift it. It's still a piece of workout equipment, so you still owe me. Yeah, forward that money now. I want to make sure I get it before you get splattered. So yeah, here's that movement I'm talking about. It's like a cheat sissy squat, just a partial, right? But all I do is just, I keep the heels down on the ground the whole time, and then I bring the knees as far forward as I can. And then what I do is this, right? It's just an extra little bit of motion. And that basically helps just activate the knees during a certain range of motion. Now, you don't want to do it so that you're doing it so far that it's causing any massive pressure or pain, right? But I find doing this is a little bit of a sister to strengthen up the medials, and gives a good burn too, especially after I do legs. Like, you get a little bit of a burn already just doing this. So this is something I'm doing just for rehab, you know, just to get the knees feeling good under certain ranges of motion and certain stretch, and help they align the knees, right? Oh yeah, that burns. Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it feels good. So I don't have a leg extension machine, so this is kind of something that mimics that, but I'd say it's probably even more effective than leg extensions because it's kind of more natural, the way, like a natural way that the body moves. So yeah, that's good. So the trick is I keep the heels down as long as I can, and then just the last little bit, see? So it's like, I don't know, there's something to do with the ankles and everything involved that helps stretch out the soleus and all these other muscles in the calves to make sure you have proper dorsiflexion. And yeah, it's good. Wow. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh, that burns. Oh yeah. Mountain. So as you can see with this exercise, that if I said to myself, only exercises I can do heavy weight with are legitimate exercises, I probably would discard this one. And this is actually a very legitimate one for hitting the medialis muscle close to the knee, along with getting that dorsiflexion and all the muscles around the ankle stretched out properly and activated properly through a certain range of motion, right? So there's going to be some of these movements that are extremely effective that will allow you to use heavier weight with your real compound lifts, but at the same time, they bring you a real benefit, even though you can't use heavy weight, or you shouldn't, right? Or not super heavy anyway. So yeah, so some movements are like finishers, as they say, or rehabilitation, or basically isolators on one small little muscle group, or they're recalibrators. Some exercises actually work like, some muscles may work to recalibrate and align your joints properly. So that way, when you're going to do the squats or these other bigger lifts, everything is more aligned, you know? So that's something to take into account. I'm glad I could share this little fun fact with you. So yeah, let's do some Romanian deadlifts now. I'm just gonna do a couple sets because my legs are pretty burnt out already. But I'm gonna do a couple sets of Romanian deadlifts for hamstrings. I know you're thinking, hey, you gotta do the even amount of sets. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to always do an even amount of sets. It's not like some sort of game of tit for tat. You know what I'm saying? I do what I feel like doing. So I'll probably do a couple sets, just the 225, stretch it out, and that'll be good. And then I'm gonna go do some walking lunges on my lawn, just to, again, alignment sort of stuff, just making sure the hips are aligned after doing the compound stuff. Now it's important to note that anytime you're gonna be doing a stretch type of lift, especially with muscles like the hamstring, you know, a lot of fast twitch fibers going on in there. A lot of times people have tight hamstrings and so forth, so I cannot recommend warming up enough. Because the thing is that muscles that are more power dominated, they are prone to tearing, they are prone to muscle pulls and so forth. And because, again, you're using the lower back and the hamstrings and the butt together, just like you are in the squats, you know, you're doing that in squats as well. It's always good to make sure that everything is firing on all cylinders and everything is harmonious in some way. So a lot of times people want to go all the way down in the Romanian deadlift or the deadlift, and they say it's crap, or they say go all the way up, otherwise it's crap. You know, again, I'm paying attention to my body where I'm feeling the stress, and I want to feel the stress on the muscle belly, the hamstring. Once I go past a certain point, it starts to transfer to the tendons. I've been doing this for 30 years, like 35 years I've been training, but say 30 years specifically I've been doing Romanian deadlifts, right? And I noticed that when I go back past a certain point, it just transfers the stress to the tendons or the lower back, and that's not what I want to do. I want to keep that tension on the muscle, use the body efficiently in order to grow the hamstrings, lower back. And yeah, sometimes the overstretch approach is great when it comes down to light weights or rehabilitation in some way. It can be good, but once you start doing the heavy weights, you let the heavyweights tell you and the body tell you what is the right range of motion, you see? And I think a lot of people get lost in what should be instead of what is. So you have to discard the what should be and say, okay, what is the body telling me? And that takes a certain amount of humility. And we know that a lot of the trolls on YouTube don't have that, right? But if you're one of the lucky people that have that kind of humility to say, I'm going to embrace what is happening instead of projecting what I think should be happening, you start to be able to make wise choices that are very grounded. You start to be able to, adjust your technique based on what's happening in the moment, right? And the great part about that is that you will become aware of variables that you might not understand yet, but you may be compensating for certain variables that you if you don't pay attention to them, right? If you don't make adjustments, you probably could end up with a serious injury. I remember back in the day, I was squatting. And I was like, why is my lower back sore? And I get stuck in this mental sort of noise of, why is my lower back not feeling it today? Why is my back hurting? Why is my, And I said, screw it. I did the heavyweight anyway and just pushed through it. And I was lucky I didn't injure myself that day. But then after my workout, I think it was about an hour or two later, I remembered that I was wrestling in the gym with some guy, like a friend of mine or whatever, and we were throwing each other around the gym, and I twisted something. And I basically, I won, of course. But after I finished, I noticed that, the next day I wasn't taking into account these other muscles that were sore or probably tight or maybe got tweaked or something, And because I wasn't taking that into account because it didn't fit into my workout program, because I was looking at my workout program, saying, where in my workout program did I get sore back? I can't find it in my workout program. That means it doesn't exist, right? And then I just pushed through on the squat. And like I said, that could have led me to a serious injury. But if I just would have been in the moment and let go of my ideas, I said, no, this is just what the body's telling me. I might not know why now, but I'm still going to listen to it and maybe go lighter today or maybe do a different exercise or whatever I feel is the right thing. I would be better off, you see? And so sometimes you have to take these leaps of faith and trusting what the body's telling you and trust that understanding and wisdom will come to you later. You see? It's kind of like immersing yourself into a hot tub and trusting that you'll start to understand the heat as you experience it. Instead of saying, hey, I got to know exactly what the chlorine is and everything in order to understand what this water is and where do the bubbles come from and all that. Is it coming from my buddy's shorts or is it coming from the actual tube coming in? You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to get in the hot tub first and then you will acclimate and you will start to understand through the immersion into the water. So it's the same thing with responding to your body. If you respond to it, you'll start to understand it at some point. But if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter because the body doesn't care whether you understand or not. It'll just send you some signals, right? Some pain or some tweaks or whatever. And if you don't pay attention to it, then it'll say, okay, now I'm going to teach you a lesson, right? And I'm going to teach you the hard way. So you go through this a few times and then you start to realize, wait a second, why was I so stubborn? I just didn't take these variables into account. They weren't in my level of awareness, and that's where I made a mistake. But you don't have to make mistakes in order to learn. That's really what I'm saying. You don't have to make so many. And the ones that you do make could be less devastating if you just kind of listen to the body and not be too obsessive compulsive about having to perform no matter what, or follow these some of these idiots on social media, right? All right, let's do a set of Romanians. Now that, it deadens the little hammies. My hammies feel a little dead from that. How many reps was that? 30, 35? In the 30s? 407? 407 reps, yeah? I think it was around 407. So yeah, that's my leg workout. I'm gonna go out in the lawn, just do a couple sets of walking lunges just to stretch everything out. But For the most part, that's my leg workout. I did about 3 or 4 sets of squats. I mean, I think I did 3 sets of 365 and 2 sets of 315. And I might be wrong. My blood's all out of my head right now into my leg area. So that's what happens. That's how you know if you worked out right, is that if you get stupid after, then, you know, and if the stupidity lasts forever, then you know you work out hard. So that's my 2 cents on that. So if you're wondering if you're working out hard enough, if your IQ's steadily dropping, you're probably on point, right? You're probably doing pretty good. But anyway, what I want to say is that you know, if you're at a plateau or if your training's not going right, don't compare yourself to the people on the internet so much. I mean, you can get some inspiration there and find out what they're doing. And maybe there's some sort of different movement or different dietary technique that you can try out and see if it works for you. And usually the thing that you're not doing is the thing that will give you the best results, right? So because I'm limited working out at home, I was doing squats a lot in the garage. I wasn't doing a lot of walking lunges because I've got sloped ground all over the place. Like you're walking, but you're kind of like teetering to the left or teetering to the right. So I wasn't doing walking lunges as much. But I found that I've got a great benefit once I started incorporating them again because of the hip alignment like I talked about, along with some great overall leg development from it. Remember, the thing that you're not doing might be the thing that produces the results. So instead of always doing the same thing over and over again, try to find just one little variable or one little different exercise or something that you can try, right? I'm perpetually trying things and discarding. Like for instance, I was trying, you know, the dumbbell external rotator cuff movement like this, right? Just lifting the dumbbells like this. But the thing is, it would grind my shoulder and I would get this clicking and stuff because of the dislocation here. So it didn't feel right, although I think it might be a great movement for a lot of people. But for me, not so good because of my own individual situation, right? But then I started doing just front raises like this, and that feels pretty good. Just doing some front raises with the pronated grip, right? Or, you know, pronating or facing my palms to the ground, right? But back in the day, if I knew if I did them this way, nothing but shoulder problems. This way, not so bad, you know? And as long as I stay with lighter weight, it actually gives me a good burn, a good pump, and something different to stimulate different areas and to bring up different weak links. So look at your weak links, try to see if there's something that you can do to push those weak links, or at least to you know, bring them up. And then you'll notice that maybe it'll transfer over to your other main exercises. The other thing too, again, I'm going to say this again, I said it in the last video, but watch your diet. Find out when you eat certain foods, how do your knees feel the next day? How does your back feel? How do your shoulders feel? How's your energy? What's your physique look like? And most importantly, I will say, most importantly, how do you feel? Right? This is most important. Everything else is secondary. If you feel good, if your body feels good, if more of the aches and pains are gone, you might be on the right track when it comes down to overall health. And that's what we want to recenter back into instead of just, you know, whatever it takes to get muscle gains, right? As natural bodybuilders, we've decided that health is first and foremost. So remember that foundational truth. And then from there, you're going to get more muscle in the long run because you're really finding out the science between what fuel not only nourishes you, right? Nourishes your muscles, but also nourishes your joints and also helps you feel much better. And if you haven't tried organ meat yet, I know a lot of guys don't want to try it, but liver, bone marrow, trachea cartilage, all these things, great things to incorporate into your diet. You know, if you're not eating organ food, if you're not eating some sort of minerals, you know, you're not making sure you're getting minerals in from the most natural sources, you might be missing out on a weak link there that can make a big difference in your overall training recovery. So that's a big subject. I cover some of that stuff in the podcast. I talk about my experiments with calcium and iodine and these different types of things. But I'll say this, a lot of those things are overlooked. Like some people think they have a hormone problem. Meanwhile, they have an iodine deficiency, right? Or they think they have some sort of like arthritis or something, and they might have magnesium deficiency, you know? So you got to really look at that stuff. And it's so empowering once you find out what you might be missing. And all of a sudden, you're doing the same workout. Now all of a sudden you're getting results. So don't only just investigate the weight training side of things, keep investigating, keep being aware of what you're eating and how you feel after you eat it in the next day and the next few days, okay? So that's your homework. I gave you some homework. Yeah? Yeah, and just so you know, if any of you has a mountain, you know, land in your front yard, remember, you owe me $995,000. And it's best if you send that money in advance, because most likely if the mountain lands near you, it's going to squash you and then you won't be able to pay me. So that's not right. How am I going to run a channel if you guys are all squashed? Mountain. So I hope this video helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgolandbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now.